What would you do if your girlfriend challenged your masculinity to avoid getting a job? Because her strategy backfired worse than she imagined. Hey, this is David. I should have seen this coming from a mile away. But when you're 29 and think you found someone who gets it, who splits the bills and doesn't expect you to bankroll her dreams, you get comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. Michelle and I had been together for 2 solid years before we moved in together. She was making 55 grand in marketing. I was pulling in 95 from tech support, and we split everything down the middle like adults. Rent, groceries, dates, everything 50-50. She'd even insist on paying her share when I offered to cover dinner. That's what made me think she was different, you know? The first 18 months were honestly perfect. She'd wake up early, hit the gym, crush her marketing campaigns, come home with stories about difficult clients and office drama. Real stuff. Adult stuff. We'd cook dinner together, watch Netflix, plan weekend trips we could both afford. She was responsible, ambitious, everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Then month 18 hit like a freight train. She told me one random Tuesday night that she was burned out, that she needed to follow her passion. And just like that, my reliable, practical girlfriend wanted to become a yoga instructor. Don't get me wrong, I supported the idea at first. Everyone deserves to love what they do, right? She promised it would take 3 to 6 months max to get certified and build up a client base. That was 8 months ago. 8 fucking months. I come home yesterday, and there's Michelle sprawled on our couch in $100 yoga pants, taking selfies for Instagram. The bills are scattered across the kitchen counter like confetti nobody wants to clean up. Electric bill, $180 because she runs the AC all day while I'm at work. Credit card statement showing her daily Starbucks runs, her organic grocery hauls, her endless online shopping for yoga props. You want to know what she made last month? $400. Teaching 2 classes a week at some studio downtown. Meanwhile, I'm covering our $2,400 rent, plus utilities, plus groceries, plus her car insurance, plus everything else that keeps this household running. Do you see the problem here? My buddy Tom keeps making jokes about having a kept woman. My sister asked me last week if Michelle's still playing yoga instructor or if she's gotten a real job yet. Even my coworker Sarah, who's usually diplomatic about everything, raised an eyebrow when I mentioned supporting Michelle's career change. The thing is, I'm starting to realize this isn't really about yoga at all. Michelle spends her days posting inspirational quotes on social media, shopping online, and doing what she calls practicing at home. But when I ask about her business plan, about marketing herself to new clients, she gets defensive. Says I don't understand the spiritual journey, that I'm too focused on money. But here's what I do understand. I'm working 50-hour weeks while she takes bubble baths and calls it self-care. I'm calculating whether we can afford groceries this week while she's ordering $20 smoothies. I'm coming home exhausted to find her arranging crystals she bought with my credit card. And the conversations we've had about this, they always end the same way. She cries, tells me I don't support her dreams, accuses me of being materialistic. Then she promises she's working harder, networking more, building her brand. But the numbers don't lie, and neither does the reality of coming home to find her doing everything except actually working. My friends think I'm being used. My family thinks I'm being naive. And honestly, I'm starting to think they're right. The worst part isn't even the money, though that stings plenty. It's the realization that maybe this was always the plan. Maybe the responsible, ambitious woman I fell in love with was just an act she put on until she found someone willing to fund her extended vacation from adulthood. Because that's what this feels like now. Not a career transition, not following her passion, but a vacation from responsibility that I'm somehow obligated to pay for. And I don't remember signing up for that arrangement. Something's got to give. Either she gets serious about actually earning money, or we're going to have a conversation that changes everything. Because 8 months is more than reasonable, and I'm done pretending this is temporary.
Hey there, I'm Michelle. I know what people think about me. They think I'm some kind of gold digger or something, but that's not how I see it at all. I'm 31 years old, and I've figured out how relationships actually work, even if other people want to pretend they don't. Here's the thing nobody talks about. I've been through this cycle before, and it usually works out just fine. With Marcus, my ex from a few years back, I met him while I was working that soul-crushing marketing job at the tech startup. He was impressed that I had my shit together, you know? Steady paycheck, nice apartment, ambition. That's how you hook them. You show them you're not needy, that you're an equal partner. Then once they're invested, once you've moved in together and they love you, that's when you can pivot. I spent 2 years with Marcus freelancing while he covered everything. Told him I was building my consulting business, working on my personal brand. He bought it completely. Would have kept buying it too if he hadn't gotten cold feet about marriage and dumped me. Typical. So when I met David, I knew exactly what I was doing. Get established in a good job first, show him I'm responsible and independent, then make the transition once he's hooked. The yoga instructor thing was perfect. It sounds spiritual and meaningful, not like I'm just trying to get out of working. And honestly, David seemed like husband material from day one. Stable job, good income, the kind of guy who'd want to take care of his woman. I figured 6 months of supporting my yoga transition, maybe a proposal, and we'd be set. He'd be proud to have a wife following her passion instead of grinding away at some corporate job. But tonight, everything went sideways. He comes home looking all stressed and tired, finds me posting some content for my Instagram, which is business development, by the way, not just vanity. And he starts in with this whole lecture about how I need to get serious about income or go back to marketing. He's complaining about how this yoga thing isn't working, how I only made $400 last month. Like, excuse me? First of all, building a wellness business takes time. You can't just expect immediate results. Second, why is he keeping track of my earnings like some kind of accountant? That's not very supportive. So I tried to explain it to him. I told him he doesn't support my dreams, that I'm following my passion, not just chasing money like he is. Which is true. Shouldn't he want me to be fulfilled and happy instead of miserable in some corporate cubicle? But he keeps pushing this whole get a real job thing, and I'm getting defensive because honestly, it feels like he's trying to crush my spirit. So I tell him what this is really about, that a real man would support his woman's goals. And when that doesn't work, when he's still going on about bills and expenses and timelines, I pull out what always works. The line that's ended every one of these conversations for the past 8 months. I tell him he's not man enough to be a provider and not fit for relationship, he's just boyfriend material. That usually shuts it right down. Most guys, when you challenge their masculinity like that, when you point out they're not stepping up to the provider role, they back off immediately. They apologize, they promise to be more supportive, they stop hassling you about money. But David just goes completely silent. And I mean silent. Like, eerily quiet. He's looking at me with this expression I've never seen before, and it's starting to freak me out a little bit. Where's the defensive comeback? Where's the apology? Why isn't he backing down like he's supposed to? Then he smiles. This weird, cold little smile that makes my stomach flip. That's when I know I fucked up. I try to backtrack, tell him I didn't mean it like that. But he's still not saying anything, and now I'm actually panicking. This isn't how this goes. This line has worked with every boyfriend I've ever had. It worked with Marcus for 2 years. It's worked with David for 8 months. Why isn't it working now? I start promising things. I'll get more serious about the business. I'll teach more classes. I'll even get a part-time job if he wants. But nothing. He just keeps looking at me with that expression, and I'm starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, I pushed too far this time. Why does he look so calm? And why do I suddenly feel like I'm about to lose everything? The panic is setting in now because this isn't following the script. When I tell guys they're not providers, they're supposed to get defensive and try to prove me wrong. They're supposed to back down and apologize for pressuring me about money. They're not supposed to smile like they just figured out some kind of puzzle. What the hell is happening here?
That moment when she said, "I'm not a man enough to be a provider, I'm just boyfriend material," was like watching puzzle pieces snap into place. Everything made perfect sense suddenly. The yoga instructor thing, the timeline that kept stretching, the defensive reactions whenever I brought up money. It wasn't about following her passion at all. She wanted a husband who'd bankroll her permanent vacation from adulthood. And you know what? The realization didn't even hurt. It was almost liberating. Like finally understanding the rules of a game I didn't know I was playing. I told her to pack her things, that she was moving out tonight. Said it so calmly, I surprised myself. No anger, no emotion, just a simple statement of fact. Michelle's face went through shock, confusion, panic, then this frantic attempt to laugh it off like I was joking. But I wasn't joking. I was being completely logical for the first time in 8 months. She just told me exactly what she thought of our relationship, and I was responding accordingly. If I'm just a boyfriend, not a provider, then she can find somewhere else to not provide for herself. I gave her 2 hours to get her stuff together. That's when the real Michelle came out. The manipulation playbook got cracked wide open, and she started running through every trick she'd probably used on every guy before me. First came the tears, then the anger, then the bargaining. She promised to get a part-time job and do yoga on weekends, asked if I didn't want her to be happy and fulfilled. I kept packing her clothes in trash bags while she talked. Her yoga pants, her overpriced athletic wear, all those outfits she wore for her Instagram photo shoots instead of actual work. Funny how therapeutic it felt, putting her life into trash bags. She tried everything. Promised to take the yoga business seriously, offered to go back to marketing, even started talking about wanting kids with me. That last one was especially pathetic, trying to trigger some provider instinct when she just finished telling me I wasn't provider material. But here's the thing. Once you see the game, you can't unsee it. Every word out of her mouth just confirmed what I'd realized. This woman had never intended to support herself again. She'd found a sucker willing to fund her lifestyle, and she'd gotten comfortable assuming I'd keep paying indefinitely. I called an Uber while she was mid-sentence, explaining how couples are supposed to support each other's dreams. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd supported her dream to the tune of about $10,000 over 8 months. What exactly had she supported about mine? I told her I'd find someone who loves herself enough to support herself. And I meant it, because watching that Uber pull away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Complete, total peace. No more bills scattered on the counter that I'd have to pay. No more coming home to find her sprawled on my couch, spending my money. No more guilt trips about not supporting her dreams while she refused to support our reality. I told my sister what happened, and she literally cheered. Said she'd been waiting for me to wise up, that everyone could see Michelle was using me except me. My buddy Tom texted asking if I wanted to grab drinks to celebrate my freedom. Even my mom, who usually stays out of my relationship stuff, said she was proud of me for standing up for myself. Changed the locks the next morning, just to be safe. Not because I thought she'd try to come back. I don't think her ego could handle that level of rejection. But because I wanted the symbolic closure of knowing that chapter was completely finished. Some guys would feel guilty about putting their girlfriend out on the street. But she wasn't my girlfriend anymore the second she told me what I really was to her. And honestly, she'd figure it out. She was 31 years old with a college degree and work experience. Time for her to act like it. Looking back now, I can see all the signs I missed. The way she never talked about long-term business plans for her yoga career. How she always had excuses for why she couldn't teach more classes or find additional income streams. The defensive anger whenever I brought up timelines or financial expectations. She wasn't building a business. She was buying time until I proposed and made the arrangement permanent. What really gets me is how calculated it all was. She didn't stumble into this situation accidentally. This was a deliberate strategy to transition from self-supporting girlfriend to financially dependent wife. The yoga instructor thing was just packaging, a way to make her refusal to work sound noble and spiritual instead of lazy and manipulative.
6 months later, and I'm standing in Athleta folding yoga pants for $15 an hour while some 26-year-old manager named Brittany corrects my technique. The irony isn't lost on me, trust me. I'm selling workout clothes to women my age who actually have careers, who can afford to drop $200 on leggings without thinking twice. This isn't how it was supposed to go. After David kicked me out, I had to call my friend Sarah for emergency couch space. Try explaining that situation without sounding like a complete disaster. So my boyfriend dumped me because I told him he wasn't man enough to be a provider. Yeah, that sounds great out loud. Sarah gave me 2 weeks before I had to figure out my own living situation, and honestly, her judgment was written all over her face. The uncomfortable questions started immediately. How did I let it get this bad? Why didn't I have any savings? What was my backup plan? I tried to make the yoga thing work for about 3 weeks after leaving David. Made $60 total before admitting what everyone already knew: you can't live on teaching 2 classes a week. The studio owner basically told me I'd need years of additional training and actual business skills to make it viable. Years I didn't have, with about $800 in savings. So here I am, sharing a cramped apartment with 2 24-year-olds who think I'm pathetic, standing on my feet for 8 hours a day, getting corrected by teenagers. My paycheck barely covers my share of rent and groceries. Meanwhile, I'm watching women my age browse casually through $300 sports bras while talking about their book clubs and vacation plans. These women represent everything I could have been if I just stayed focused on building a real career instead of cycling through relationships. They have confidence that comes from financial independence. They're not calculating whether they can afford a $20 smoothie or wondering if their boyfriend will cover dinner. They're not scanning dating apps, hoping to find someone to rescue them from retail hell. The dating situation is even worse than the job situation, if that's possible. Online dating at 31 with no career is like advertising your failure to the world. I have to lie about my job, tell guys I'm between marketing roles while working retail. Quality men my age want partners with ambition and stability, not someone fishing for a provider. The ones who are interested are either looking for hookups or they're financial disasters themselves. I dated this engineer named Mike for 2 months. He seemed promising until I started hinting about maybe quitting retail to focus on wellness coaching. The second I suggested moving in together to save money, he ended things. Said he was looking for a partner, not a dependent. That stung, but it wasn't the last time I'd hear something similar. Every guy now reacts the way David did. They see right through the strategy that used to work perfectly. Whatever shifted in the dating landscape over the past few years, the work-to-dependency cycle isn't viable anymore. Men have gotten wise to it, or maybe I've just aged out of the demographic where it works. The pattern repeats endlessly now. I meet someone, we date for a few weeks, I gradually hint at my real agenda, and they disappear. It's like David's reaction became the template for how men respond to women like me. The manipulation that worked with Marcus in my 20s is now a relationship death sentence. You want to know the worst part? I stalked David's Instagram last month. New girlfriend, house hunting, looks genuinely happy. She's some software developer with her own career, her own money, her own everything. He looks lighter somehow, like he's not carrying the weight of supporting someone else's delusions. David would have been a fair partner if I'd stayed employed and built the relationship as equals. But I wanted the provider arrangement so badly that I manipulated myself right out of a stable situation. The line about him not being my provider that was supposed to shame him into compliance completely backfired and exposed my true intentions. Now I'm 32 with nothing to show for a decade of adult life. While other women my age have careers, savings accounts, homes, families, I'm starting over from scratch because I spent years perfecting a cycle that stopped working right when I needed it most. The bitter truth, nobody tells you about this strategy, is that it has an expiration date. At 25, you can get away with being directionless because you're still figuring things out. At 31, you're just irresponsible. The manipulation tactics that worked on guys in their 20s fail spectacularly on men who've been around long enough to recognize the pattern. I'm facing the possibility that I may actually have to build a real career instead of cycling between relationships. That I may have to support myself instead of finding someone else to do it for me. The thought terrifies me because I've spent so long avoiding real responsibility that I don't know if I remember how to handle it. Sometimes I consider reaching out to Marcus, my ex from the cycle before David. But I checked his social media too. He's married now, house in the suburbs, baby on the way. Even if he weren't taken, I burned that bridge when I moved on to David. There's no going back to previous marks once you've revealed your true nature. What if I never find another man willing to support me? What if David was my last chance at the arrangement I wanted, and I blew it with one perfectly calculated line that backfired completely? I guess I'm about to find out.